Today, we'll be making solar power more real and tangible. I'm standing at a training facility and small solar farm built by Strata Solar, friends of mine in Chapel Hill, and also one of the top 5 solar developers and contractors in the U.S. This particular solar farm provides 1 megawatt of peak generating capacity, the smallest in Strata's portfolio. However, most of Strata Solar's farms range from 5 megawatts, enough to power 1,500 homes, to 80 megawatts, enough to power roughly 13,000 homes. Although Strata's CEO moved to Chapel Hill to retire after serving as an executive in the publishing industry, he became inspired by the potential to build a solar power business in North Carolina. As an innovator and entrepreneur, normal retirement was probably pretty boring, and I think I share that perspective as well. Since their founding in 2008, they have developed over 140 utility-scale solar projects in 14 states and now manage over $1 billion in assets, including 1,000 megawatts or 1 gigawatt developed, and 3 times that amount in the development pipeline for completion in the coming years. In doing so, they have helped lead North Carolina into the number 2 position nationally in terms of cumulative solar capacity. One of their secrets was to realize that every installation cannot be unique. Instead, each solar farm installation is treated more like a product instead of a customized project. Accordingly, much of their work, such as engineering designs and supply chain partners, can be reused and repeated on many sites. In doing so, they reduce costs and speed up construction schedules. This is a key insight that applies to many renewable energy and green building opportunities. Reducing costs, repeatability, and delivering the good or service on time are essential. The phrase often used is rinse and repeat. This doesn't mean projects are any less valuable or sacrifice quality in any way. In fact, the opposite is instead true. Many people, from the average person to sophisticated investors, still mistakenly believe that renewable energy presents too much technology risk. But if we think about the components of solar farms, we'll see this is not the case for renewable energy projects, which really are just infrastructure. Consider the solar panels. The technology has been around since the 1950s when Bell Labs produced solar cells for space activities. Today's panels have performance warranties for 25 years and guarantee output at 80% of their original power in year 25, with an assumed 0.5 degradation in power output most years. That's pretty impressive. And how about the inverters? The components which convert direct current, or DC power, from the solar farms into alternating current, or AC power. While they are more complicated, their warranties are still usually 10 years. So what else is there? Steel or aluminum racking that holds the panels after being driven into the ground for stability, wiring to collect solar electricity from all the panels and direct it to the inverters, and a monitoring system to keep track of the project's performance on a minute-by-minute basis, watching out for errors and quickly addressing any problems before they cause too much disruption in revenue generation. Speaking of monitoring, next we'll visit Strata Solar's Situation Room, or their centralized operations and maintenance facility, where they keep track of roughly 120 different utility-scale solar farms. We're now at Strata Solar's headquarters, getting ready to take a closer look at how their 120-plus large solar farms are operating today. The weather's almost perfect. Cold, not too humid, and very sunny. We're recording this in the spring here, so almost a peak time for solar power generation. Now let's ask the experts a few questions. So Mike, as Director of Operations here at Strata, can you share with students around the world a little more about your job?
Sure. So as Director of Operations for Strata Solar Services, which is our O&M arm, I'm responsible for the operation of our fleet of power plants, our interface with vendors, and our customer service experience.
Great. And roughly how many homes are being powered by the types of solar systems we're seeing on the screens behind us?
Well, taking into account that we don't put out power during the night, over the course of a year we are powering about 150,000 homes with the fleet that we have under management currently.
Can you tell us a little more about what we're seeing exactly with the various screens?
Sure. So You can see our fleet is throughout North Carolina here. We're currently seeing great weather, which is coming through with high irradiance, low wind, low humidity. It's a cool day. And we're seeing great production from our solar farms today. So not a lot of outages, kind of near peak power since we're towards the middle of the day here. So a really good day for solar today.
And what kinds of problems can you detect by sitting here in this network operating center and looking at these screens?
Sure, so we can detect outages, small or large, and then we can get a lot more granular. So one example of what we can do here is that we can see a power plant go offline, and then we can kind of trace it back through event files, and we can figure out kind of down to the level of we probably had a tree branch fall and go across 2 phases of a power line, which caused a grid anomaly and caused the site to go offline. We work with a lot of well-established manufacturers, so we tend to find that the products are very reliable. We do find that sometimes in the first 6 months we will discover that a product has degraded faster than it should, maybe a technical defect in the product itself, but most of the incidents that we run into on a day-to-day basis are caused by external factors such as grid events or even critters that interfere with power lines.
Finally, given your experience watching, observing, monitoring so many solar farms out there, what do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of solar power operation and generation?
I think one common misconception is that you can install a solar power plant and then as long as the sun comes out and sets every day, it'll run by itself. There is a lot of active monitoring involved and a lot of response by field teams to make sure that it runs at the highest availability levels possible.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this site visit. To put it into context, I want to read you a statistic from Bloomberg's analysis. About $8 trillion will be invested globally in renewables between 2016 and 2040, 2/3 of that going to power generating capacity. But it would require trillions more to bring world greenhouse gas emissions onto a track compatible with the United Nations 2 degrees Celsius climate target. So there is immense opportunity in the renewable energy industry to develop, build, and invest great sums of capital while also helping to address what experts call one of today's greatest challenges.